Wagri Khasa, Wagri Fateh. Today I'm going to be answering 5 common questions that a lot of Sikhs have. My name is Gurupma Singh. I usually have quite a few people ask me questions about Sikhi. I make some short form content on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, I'm just going to go through a few questions that I think will be helpful if you're trying to get closer to Sikhi, which I know a lot of young people are, but they don't have the right kind of people to guide them. They don't have any answers to the questions that they have. I want this video to be able to help people like that so that they can get closer to Sikhi. So the first question is, what if I don't feel anything when I do paath or simran? Am I still a good Sikh? The answer I would immediately give is, if you don't feel anything when you do paath or simran, it's very normal, or at least it has been in my experience. And I think the reason why is because I don't think Sikhi is all that focused on experiencing something really different. And I know that might sound counterintuitive because, a lot of the time people say like Sikhi is about this experience. It's about like, this feeling. And I would say that for me, the way that I view Sikhi is very much in alignment with personal development. Of Sikhi helps to guide me on to the things I should be doing more. And often, if I relate that to a different experience that I've had within personal development, let's say, I'm on a journey and I want to wake up earlier. Yeah. And that's a goal that I set for myself. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm trying to do more of. I don't necessarily have any feeling when I'm setting this goal. Or do I have any feeling when I'm working towards the goal? And sometimes I don't even have any feeling once I've achieved the goal. But it's the best thing that I should do. And it's the thing that I'm trying to move towards. So for me, when it comes to, I don't feel anything when I'm doing paath or simran, is that important? No. Is the result of who you are becoming more important? Yes. And that's what I would say that typically, that's what I personally try to focus on. And it's also what I'd recommend if you're trying to get closer to Sikhi. It's what you should focus on. Are you changing as a person? Are you becoming better? We're not here to just chase emotions and chase feelings. If not, we would just give in to the banch jod. But we're not here to do that. We're here to focus on actually becoming the best versions of ourselves. Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, "Hum hikaj jagat mo aaye, dharam het Gurdev pathai," which means that I'm here to spread righteousness. Yeah, it's not about how do I feel. It's about what am I doing. And that to me is like, if you don't feel paath or simran, it's okay. You don't have to have this experience or emotion where there's like this overwhelming like feeling or experience. For me, often it's just grounding myself that I'm on the right path, grounding myself in humility, grounding myself in discipline. Paath and simran gives you discipline. It gives you humility because you have to do the same thing. And it's not easy to do these things. So I feel like the character traits that you develop when you do this is what is actually the value in it. So even if you don't feel that connected to it, it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. You might not feel good when you go to the gym, but you should still do it. Okay? And that's how I'd view this. It doesn't matter how you feel all the time. And what I would say is that as a bonus, if you are sitting there thinking, well, I want the feeling, I actually think that the feeling comes when you do it over and over again and you allow yourself to explore this place. Yeah? To give you a parallel, if you think about the first time you go to school. I remember when I went to school in year 7, and the first couple of days that I was there, I just felt like really like unsure. I was just in this like strange place and I couldn't enjoy myself. I couldn't switch off, I couldn't relax because I wasn't used to doing it. But after going back over and over again, I felt very comfortable and had a great time. And I think that often it's just allowing yourself to experience it more and more so that you can have that experience. So that you can like let your guard down and allow yourself to enjoy the experience of what you're going through, whether that's through paath or simran. The other thing that I would say is that if you don't feel connected to your paath in particular, one of the things I would ask you is like, are you just reciting paath without actually knowing what you're saying? Do you believe any of the words are within paath? Do you look at any of this and think like, yes, I want to make this a grounding principle within my life? And if the answer is no, then it's always going to feel a little bit empty and you're never going to feel that connected to it. So look into what your paath actually means and see, and even if it's a couple lines, I remember when I was doing my paath, and I was just starting getting into it, I would have like a couple lines that I would look forward to reading. Like there was a couple bhakti that I was like, I know what this bhakti means. I like this bhakti. And it kind of gave me that like, yes, I believe in what I'm saying. And that to me, I think is quite powerful. So I would say also just look into that, and even today, like when I'm reading Gurbani, reading paath, and I come across something that resonates with me, I'm much more likely to continue engaging it because it does actually resonate with me. So understanding what it means as well is obviously very helpful too. So that was question 1. Question 2 is, how do I deal with the guilt of being a part-time Sikh? Quite easy answer to this. Firstly, stop being a part-time Sikh. Sikhi is not a part-time path, okay? It's not something that you're meant to do just like casually on the side. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa, he asked people for their head. He said, if you're willing to walk this path, I need you to literally give up everything else. And that's that's actually what it requires to be a Sikh. Yeah? And whether or not you believe the story is true or false, it doesn't matter. Even in Gurbani, it says, Joto prem khalan ka chao, sir tal tali gali meri aao. Which means that if you want to play this game of love, step onto this path with your head in the palm of your hand. Which doesn't mean like physically cut your head off and put it in the palm of your hand. It means commit to this fully. Don't look at anything else. Don't pay attention to anyone else. Just focus on this path, and you have to give it your all. So if you're sitting thinking, well, I'm only just kind of doing Sikhi here and there, or I'm only a Sikh on Wednesdays and Saturdays, or whatever it is, like, it just doesn't work. And that's not the Sikhi that our gurus have outlined for us. It's not the Sikhi described within Gurbani. And even though you might want to say that you're a Sikh because it's almost just fun to say, or it's what your families grew up as, or it's what is written in you want to put it in your bio on Instagram, it just doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter what you think Sikhi is. It matters what Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Guru Gobind Singh Ji has told us what Sikhi is. It's what's written in Gurbani, what Sikhi actually is. So, if you feel like you're a part-time Sikh, this is not me to like discourage you by any means. In fact, it's the other. I want to encourage you to take Sikhi seriously, because what will happen is that if you only half engage with the plan, what often happens is that you'll blame the person that made the plan. Let's say I'm a personal trainer and I give someone a plan on how they can get in shape, but then they don't follow the plan. And then they come back at me and say, your plan sucks, your plan doesn't work, I don't like you. Is that my fault? Or is that the person who's trying to follow half of the plan and then complain that they didn't get the results? It seems obvious, but in reality it's not. And a lot of people blame Sikhi, a lot of people blame God for the results that they got when they didn't actually like engage with the instructions. They didn't actually try and understand what Gurbani is guiding them towards. So if you're a part-time Sikh, you should expect part-time results. Yeah, you're not going to find deep fulfillment. You're not going to find the peace that you're looking for. You're not going to be able to detach yourself from the anxiety and pain that you're struggling with, because you're so adamant about being attached to the other things. Gurbani talks about this again. He talks about duality, and duality is the love of it's just basically looking at two different things and thinking, I want both of them. It's like you can't have both of them. One of them requires detachment from the other. And I think this is where so many Sikhs get confused, because we've been told to live in the real world. We've been told to engage within society, but mentally we should be detached. Mentally we should be committed to Vaheguru. Mentally we should understand that these other things are temporary, and we shouldn't put our faith and hope and everything within them, and we should put that within Vaheguru. Yeah. So this is the answer to the question. If you feel like a part-time Sikh, firstly, try and move towards becoming committed as a Sikh. Yeah, this is something that I'm doing myself. I can't say that I'm not a part-time Sikh. I feel like a part-time Sikh sometimes. Yeah, a lot of the time actually. And I feel like the answer is stop trying to be part-time. You can't have it. It doesn't work. No matter how much you might try, you're never going to find the peace and fulfillment that you're looking for if you keep acting like a part-time Sikh. So I'm not asking anything unreasonable from you. What I'd ask, and this is the same that I ask myself, is what's a small, reasonable step that I could take today that's going to make me closer and closer to Sikhi? And if every day I feel like I'm actively working towards becoming a better Sikh, actively working towards becoming more committed to Sikhi, that is a path that I should be on. Yeah? And it's not by anyone else's definition. It's not you need to tomorrow wake up at 4 a.m. and you need to do Satbania, you need to keep your case, you need to stop drinking alcohol, all these different things. What's one thing that you feel like you could do? And just keep asking yourself that question. Nothing else. And that's going to help to remove that guilt and also bring you closer to Sikhi. And over time, you'll realize that all these other things that you're worried about being part-time, about like not wanting to commit, they'll start to fade away. So that's my answer to question 2. Question 3 is, I don't know where to learn about Sikhi. Where should I begin? And I think the place that you should begin is often the hardest place to begin. I think that you need to start to understand Gurbani. You need to look into what Gurbani is saying, because the truest form of Sikhi is what our gurus have told us. It's not, the people that that are Sikh. It's not them. They aren't the best representation. It's not, who you see in the Gurdwara. It's not what you read online. It's what our gurus directly said. And one of the things that I want to do is push people towards understanding and reading and learning about Gurbani, so that they're not attached to anyone else. I look a lot of the Sikhs that talk about Sikhi online, on TikTok, on Instagram. I look at a lot of them and think, I'm so glad that I'm not impressionable, because a lot of these people that try to claim that they know a lot about Sikhi, they don't. And it's not me being rude to them, but what they say contradicts Gurbani. How they act contradicts how our gurus acted. And I'm just so grateful that I have the ability to read and understand Gurbani, so I'm not dependent on what these people who claim to know about Sikhi say, and I can focus on what does Gurbani actually tell me, so that my guesses and my assumptions of what Sikhi aren't based on other people, but they're based directly from what Guru has told me. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, exactly where should I start? I'd recommend you sit and you try and learn Gurbani. How you do that is by reading Gurbani, reading the English translation, reading Punjabi translation, going and asking scholars about what does this mean? How do I understand this more? How can I start to live my life like this? And I think that that's the biggest mistake that most people that are born in Sikh families make, is that they don't actually try and understand Sikhi. They don't try and understand Gurbani, or they have an arrogance which assumes that they know what Gurbani is saying because they've grown up around it. Whereas when you look at the way that they live, it's not actually applied in practice. It's just talked about. They might know the theory, but they don't try and live like that. So my advice is understand what Gurbani actually says and live your life accordingly to what Gurbani says. And as a result, you'll see the benefits that's talked about within Gurbani. You'll feel better. You'll feel less anxious. You'll feel less stressed. You'll feel more in control of what's going on, because you realize that you're not in control of what's going on. Okay? So that's my advice to you on where you should start within Sikhi. Question 4 says, what does Sikhi say about mental health, and why is no one talking about anxiety and depression within our community? It's crazy to me that Sikhs don't talk about anxiety and depression. I think that Punjabi and Indian culture is still really strong within Sikh communities and Sikh culture, and that's why it's not mentioned. Because in Gurbani, it's talked about over and over again. The whole point of Gurbani is to alleviate the stress and anxiety and worry. Yeah, there's so many pankti of Gurbani. If you just go to the Gurdwara and you look at the board, I can almost guarantee that in one divan you will see at least one pankti that talks about anxiety, stress, worry, depression. There's always something to talk about within this, because the whole point, let's say even just take anxiety, for example, is anxiety is often really strongly linked to fear of what's going to happen in the future. How much does Gurbani tell us to not worry about that stuff? How much does Gurbani tell us to focus on practices that can help you? If you wanted to think about practices that can help you, seva, okay? Helping other people. If you want to think about practices that can help you reduce anxiety, meditation, doing simran. If you wanted to think about practices, community, sangat. Gurbani has so many, like the way that Sikhi is set up to minimize anxiety, to minimize stress and worry. The mindset that Gurbani encourages us to take on, one where we're not inflicted by Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, right? When you think about people that are anxious, it's often because they're worried about something that's going to happen to them, okay? They're worried about themselves, they're worried about how life is going to be, they're worried about what other people are going to say. And often the stem of that, even though they might not realize it, often is ego. It's so much about them, they're so important, that if something happens to them, if someone looks bad or looks down on them, anxiety, yeah? But Gurbani says that this is not the way to think. Gurbani says you need to be humble, okay? If you're humble and you think of yourself as lowly, if you think of yourself as nothing, Humku kar tere darbar. In Gurbani, it's written that I'm a dog, yeah? And I'm at mercy of whatever you do and say, okay? Do you think that the people who have got anxiety are really humble themselves to that level? No, because it's hard, right? And I'm not saying that, people have anxiety because they're really egotistical, but do I think that the things that Gurbani teaches us, if you implement them, would that reduce your anxiety? Absolutely. Do I think that the practices that our gurus have set up for us reduce anxiety? Absolutely. And not just anxiety, but also depression, also other mental health challenges that people face. Gurbani and Sikhi is set up in a way to massively reduce that. And there's scientific studies that can literally prove this by going through, okay, well, what practices does Sikhi promote and how do these affect people's mental health? And there's so many of them, which means that even if, people in your community, people in your Sangat aren't talking about mental health and depression, is the purpose to get away from that? Is it to get away from anxiety, away from depression? Yes. And does Gurbani give us solutions to how to do this? Yes, over and over again. So to answer the question of what does Sikhi say about mental health and why does no one talk about it within our community, I honestly don't know why people don't talk about it in the community. But Sikhi says that you should take action on the practices that are going to help you to reduce anxiety. And Sikhi has made it so easy for us to do so. It's made it easy for us to do seva, meet other people that are positive and want to improve their life. It makes it easy for us to meditate and reflect on ourselves. These are core principles. And even exercise and take care of your body. And decrease humility, not focus on the future too much, be grateful for what you have today. All these things are things that Sikhi promote. So when it comes to mental health and Sikhi, there's a very, very strong case that everything that Sikhi tells you to do is for the betterment of your mental health. So the reason why people struggle to talk about it is beyond me, because in essence, if we weren't struggling with our mental health, the need for Sikhi in my eyes would be so much lower. Now moving on to question 5. Why do I feel like I have to hide parts of myself to fit in with the Sikh community? Well, the first thing that I would say is, are you trying to fit into the Sikh community, or are you trying to fit into a very toxic Punjabi or Indian community? Because I think that a lot of the Sikh community, if we all lived by Sikh values, there'd be a lot less judgment, there'd be a lot less hatred, there'd be people that were much more comfortable to talk about how they actually feel, what's actually going on with their life. And I think if you're struggling to open up to people, the first question that I'd ask you is, do you actually have good people around you? People that genuinely have your best intention at heart? And if the answer is no, then that's a first problem that needs to be fixed. So then let's say that you do have people that genuinely want the best for you, and you still feel like you've got to hide aspects of things. Like let's say, you don't follow the same practices. Let's say you've got slightly different beliefs. I would say that that's completely fine if you do. However, I would say, what do our gurus encourage? Yeah. And if this is a difference of you individually thinking, well, I want this and I like this and I think that this is best for me, is that just ego talking? Because our gurus have done some incredible things for us, and they've set us up to be very, very successful within life. So the question is do you want to put your judgment of what you think is best above our guru's judgment and what they say is best? I'd say that it's a fool's game, really. When you think about the depth that Gurbani goes into, you think about the millions and millions of people's lives that Gurbani's made better for people. I think that I always, and that's what makes me Sikh, right? I put the guru's words above my own desires. So if you're feeling like you have to hide things, firstly, get around the right people. And then secondly, you've got to really submit to what Vaheguru says and accept that as what it is that you should be following. And if you still feel like you have to hide things, just don't. I know that's going to seem counterintuitive. Don't hide them. Just say, look, this is where I'm at the moment. I'm open to change. I'm open to exploring the possibility that I might not be right about this, and allow yourself to just adapt. Because the thing is, you might think that something's true, and you might think that you're a certain way because of whatever reason, because of your past, because of the experiences that you've had, but you don't actually know, and repressing that is going to make things harder. So allow yourself to engage in conversation about whatever it is that you're feeling like you're hiding. Because again, just on the last question that I answered about mental health, if you've got something that you're hiding and you feel like you've got to keep hiding it and keeping it a secret, then over time that can really start to weigh on you. So don't act irrationally, don't do anything silly, just talk about what you're actually thinking and what you're feeling. And that's often the best mechanism, especially if it's with people that genuinely want the best for you. Yeah, just talk about what you're thinking, talk about what you're feeling. And I think that that's going to be the easiest way for you to stop feeling so stressed and anxious about, I have to hide part of who I am because of the Sikh community, for example. So those are the answers to the questions I have. I had 5 questions. If you've got more questions, then definitely leave them in the comments below. I really enjoy doing things like this because, like I said, when I was growing up, I think that there was often times where I had questions. I didn't know what the answer was. I didn't know how to handle them. I didn't know who to ask. So being able to answer questions about Sikhi, I take it very seriously, to be honest, because I know how important it was for me growing up. I know how I've seen people's lives play out where, because they didn't have the right answers, they stepped away from Sikhi and they go down a really bad path. And if there's people that I can help to stick with Sikhi, I'd really, really like to do that as much as I possibly can. So that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you on the next Q&A. So like I said, leave any other questions that you've got in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to doing another one of these soon.